the important thing is that there's a lot of very serious things happening in the world. And the way you can tell there's some good news where you can actually feel like, okay, you know what, it could be a lot worse. And one of the ways you can tell that is your enemies are running out of ammunition. When they're like, well, we've thrown everything against it, we got nothing left. Trump's getting indicted, real indictments, real grand juries, real legal processes. And what's going on over in the attack Biden just cuz world? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Greg Kelly, the most miserable man on the internet, who seems upset simply because Joe Biden is smiling. And this video is titled, and they put it, Greg Kelly, President Biden loves fancy clothes. Yeah. It's tan suit time all over again. I suppose this is one of those things where he's like, Biden likes the trappings of wealth and privilege that the presidency gives him, and he's doing it on your dime. Now, granted, he's not keeping 3 golf courses afloat that would otherwise be in receivership using your dime, but it's very upsetting. And Greg's not having it. Now, Greg is not having anything. He's the most miserable man on the internet. But his big criticism is Joe Biden likes to play dress up. Mm-hmm.
You have probably seen the video online by now, a big brawl along racial lines.
Wait. Fakes, this is the other thing. Fake news loves a reason to freak out. That's what he's saying. Okay. Apparently, what, racism is fake or something along those lines, or I'm not quite sure. Like, I've seen the videos of this kind of stuff, and I'm not going to comment on the content of it because we know you don't dive into a video that picks up halfway into the altercation, ever. But the fact that Greg Kelly is upset about it puts some weight in that there might be something to this.
At the waterfront in Montgomery, Alabama.
Thrown punch leads to an all-out brawl on an Alabama riverfront. Witnesses calling it an attack on a man just doing his job.
A violent brawl in Alabama goes viral.
Oh my God, I'm so glad that says Doc.
A group of white voters accused of jumping a black security guard. Then a full-blown fight escalated on the riverfront.
I love this. This is that's his response. He's pulling a yawn. Now, you know what this means? This means he reads my tweets. And the idea is that we always hear about racism. They always bring up racism. It's so boring.
Excuse me. I was nodding off for a moment. I know the media, they really want us to be all riled up about this story. There was a fight. There was a rumble. There
was a fight. It was a rumble. There was no jungle involved. It was not in the Bronx either. Jackie Chan was not involved. It looks like 2 type 2 diabetics deciding to give it one last shot, quite frankly. But the racial component will be worked out in courts and in conversations ever since. Apparently, 2 of the people involved in the brawl can't be found.
were about probably in a country of 3 million people. How many fights were there?
I'm sorry. How many people are there in the United States? Say that again. You dumb son of a bitch. Back up.
Story. There was a fight. There was a rumble. Mm-hmm. There were about probably in a country of 3 million people. How many fights were there this weekend?
I don't know. I don't know any 3 million person-sized countries. Counties? There's like 340 million people. And granted, now you don't have to include all of them. In defense of Greg Kelly, in a country of 340 million, we're going to exclude the toddlers. None of us are going to get too worked up about that. The elderly, anybody in a place for mom, the fight is not going to be in any major way. Half the country is far too busy and on the go to get involved in a dock fight in the middle of, I don't know, wherever the fuck this happened. Yeah, and when you boil it down to it, maybe in the country there are 3 million rando fighter fucks. That's the number. You boil it down, and less than 1% of 1% of the country are like, put up your dukes. Thanks, Alabama. Yeah, I rest my case.
A lot. A lot.
That's probably a lot. That's a big tongue jut you got going there, Greg Kelly. I'd either buy some chapstick or just fuck it, become a dog.
I know. This was...
No, you don't.
It's along race lines. At least that's what they insist, right? They almost want it to be racial. Now, I understand...
Who are they? I understand that it was technically along race lines, and it grew out of that because of the perception that it was based on race, even if it didn't initially start that way. So
this is bad, by the way. I don't like violence. Nobody likes violence. We wish people didn't fight, but they fight.
No, they fight. Especially certain members of the public tend to...
Anyway, maybe I am missing something, all right?
Yes, you are. But I think it's connective tissue between the two halves of your brain.
Let's just go ahead. All right, well, looks like a fight. All right, other guys are jumping in. I wish they did.
You know what? Say what you will about Jimmy Buffett's fans, but socks are overrated.
Didn't fight. Oh, yikes, that's bad.
You think?
And then people...
Is this the first time he's fucking seeing this? It's your show, dickwad.
Somebody comes to the rescue, is that right? Okay, that's...
Yeah, that's what it was. To the rescue. Two grown men are fighting. Someone please come to the rescue. For the record, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever see me get into a fight on my own with somebody else, especially if I turn my hat around backwards like I'm in every which way but loose all the fucking stuff, don't come to my rescue. If I get my ass kicked, it's because I brought it, okay? If I'm sucker punched and I'm dizzy and somebody's feel free. But in this particular case, if we're both upright and facing each other, piss off.
They break up the fight. Look, the reason...
They what? They do what?
Why this is a thing is because the one who threw the first punch happens to be white, and...
He just happened to be white. He slipped and fell and tripped in some whiteness.
And the person hit happens to be black.
It just worked out that way in Montgomery, Alabama. Which is really weird for Montgomery, Alabama. It's the kind of thing where you're in Montgomery, Alabama, and you're like, wow, if there's one thing I don't think I'll ever expect to see in Montgomery, Alabama.
If it were a white person attacking a white person, no one would care. A black...
Yeah, because it's Montgomery, Alabama.
Person attacking a black person, no one would care.
Right. Because there wouldn't be a racial component. And by the way, I don't think that's true. If white on white or black on black, let's say it's a male versus a female. Suddenly people care. If it's, what if there's subcategories? What if it's a light-skinned mixed race dude against a MAGA supporter with a bad sunburn from a, sorry, who's got he's wearing orange Trump makeup to cover his lobster red skin from being out on the boat too long. They're both a little loopy. They both drank too much. And I'm just saying, who you putting your money on?
Would be one of the many hundreds, maybe even thousands of fights that seem to take place
on the bus
every weekend. Sometimes.
No. By the way, there aren't that many fights, really. In a country of 340 million people, there's shockingly few fights.
Every single day.
No, it's not.
I think everybody is missing something.
Well, I mean, outside of Montgomery, Alabama.
No. A woman was almost killed. A woman in the red top here. It's a little bit hard to make out, in part because people don't want you to know this part of the story.
That's, again, with the tongue jut. What the shit? Does she excite you that much, Greg? I'm going to throw up.
What,
she fall down and then she fell between the boats and she almost fell into the water? Did anyone ask her if she can swim?
The man in the white shirt, the dock worker, I think he was actually the deputy captain of the boat. He was under assault, and that's bad for about 50 seconds or so.
Yeah, for him.
This woman was hit in the head with a chair.
What the fuck? When did this go WWE?
Take a closer look. It's hard to make out. And you know what? This video is actually hard to get right now. We're still working on this story.
What? Why? Here's a good idea. If you don't know what the fuck is going on, and you don't have the details, and you're looking at a scatter-ass mess that's happening on a fucking dock in Montgomery, Alabama, maybe just wait a couple days. You're not gonna Monday morning quarterback this. You're not gonna work it out. You aren't. You know what you're gonna come to the conclusion of? That basically this was like a Florida man attack. Lower Alabama, LA, Northern Florida, same shit. Get over yourself. If you don't know, then shut the fuck up.
But right there, that's the worst thing that happened in Montgomery that day.
Well, then I would say a lot has changed since 1965. Shit. I'm just saying, progress, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, interracial violence in Montgomery, Alabama has taken a giant leap forward. Shut the fuck. You don't even know what's going on, asshole.
That, I believe, is attempted murder.
I think it's attempted WWE. I think it's attempted Raw.
Now, she happens to be white, and the guy with the chair who hit her in the head happens to be black.
Yeah, why is no one drawing any attention to this thing that I don't even know what the fuck is going on? Was she, by the way, is the audio good on this? Was she by any chance going, somebody get me a chair, I need to sit down, and then he just overreacted? You don't know.
That's not part of the story, is it, right? You know, what's that word they love? A narrative. A narrative. A narrative is it's a story. And it has, a way of presenting or understanding a situation.
Oh, my God, we're going to the Websters.
Or series of events that reflects and promotes a particular point of view or set of values.
Right. Or as Trump likes to call it, fake news, which is what you do.
Yeah, like a story. Like a story. You know, in life, things just happen.
Why story in quotes? Story in and of itself is a quotation.
And they don't necessarily fit into a story, right? I mean, but the media, they want it because they have an agenda. And
no, they don't. They didn't start this fucking fight. And it's fucking Montgomery, Alabama. I think most of us would be shocked to find out that probably the vast majority of fighting that happens in Montgomery, Alabama isn't interracial. I think that would make the news.
Right now, they want everybody at each other's throats.
No, they don't. They're concerned that people are at each other's throats and would not like that to continue.
Over race, I believe, so Democrats somehow can fool a vast portion of the population into thinking that that party protects them more than the other party. But who knows?
Protects who? Yeah, that's right.
Knows. So there.
Who does know? But go back to the part, because this is the part that gives Greg a boner.
Was this standoff, and then there was a fight, and it was ugly, and it was brutal, and it's a shame. It's a shame that human beings do that.
It's just a shame that people do that. Now let's cut to January 6th video.
And they did it thousands of times across the country this weekend. Don't fall for it. Don't.
Again, asshole, this is the same argument we have about whether there's hate crimes and what constitutes a hate crime. Motherfucker, I don't care if two people dusting off get into a fight between each other. That's not my business. And I can avoid it because socially, if I'm in a situation that might escalate into a fight, I can either choose to fight or de-escalate it myself. I can make a choice about this. Unless the other person wants to fight because of immutable characteristics that I can't get rid of. And that is true of black people and gay people and women and men and straight, gay, and white and black, or whatever. If somebody wants to attack you for reasons you cannot alter, you can't change, like your behavior, then you are in danger just walking around. That's why racism and hate crimes are more pernicious and more dangerous than just regular interpersonal violence, because it's impersonal. I don't know if you know this, but Hitler didn't have a thing with one particular Jew. It was kind of a blanket policy. And you couldn't get out of it ever. That's why a hate crime matters. And by the way, I'd like to put it in terms that maybe this dickhead can understand. I think more people should do more time if they attack a police officer. And I'll tell you why. Because if you are nuts enough to attack a police officer, you certainly will have no qualms about attacking an unarmed civilian. If you're willing to kill a cop, you're willing to kill 3 random civilians. On average, that's about how it works out. So anybody who's crazy enough to attack a police officer and try to hurt them in any meaningful way, and they go through the trial, they get more time tacked on. That's pretty standard. They get more time tacked on. I don't know if it makes them a bigger hero in prison or something, but they get more time tacked on than if they tacked, a regular assault of a city. And the reason is because given half a chance, had that cop not been there, they would have attacked somebody else and made it even worse. Okay. And this applies not because that individual cop, but because if this person will attack police officers in general, they don't care about the ramifications of their actions, and they are violent past a certain point of social interaction with the rest of humanity. The same thing is true of a racist or sexist or bigoted attack. Because now it's not, I got a problem with Fred and Fred's got a problem with me, and once we solve this, it's over. This conversation is over. It's, I have a problem with every Kevin in the world, every Greg in the world. See what I mean? No, Karate Joe. In my chat room. No, they don't. They do not. That's the issue I have. If somebody doesn't like somebody because they don't like their face, or there's some sort of individual problem with them, or they dust up and they get into a fight and back and forth, and that very well may be how these guys started fighting. But this fucker who jumps in may have done it just because this dude's black. He may have done it because, I don't know, this dude owes him money. Who knows? But the point is if this guy did it because he's black, that's extra concerning, because that motherfucker, now every black person in the area has to worry about this dickhead wandering around. Because he's abstract in his violence. You don't know when it's going to happen. It is a specific, it's why you don't want violently crazy people walking the street, because they could snap and attack anybody, except it's specific to a group. And therefore, giving people more time because they commit a hate crime makes total sense, because of the abstract nature of them. They're closer to a serial killer than somebody who murders their husband or wife in some sort of for financial gain. You could be talked out of that later on. You could be rehabbed from something like that. In this case, it's, and I don't know if it's this case again. I mean, in a case of racial hatred or bigoted violence or sexist violence or any abstract reasons, you have an entire group of people now has to worry about that person roaming around, deciding when's the next time they're going to do this shit. Right? Okay. Anyways, whatever. Greg doesn't know what the
fall for it. It's fascinating what they choose to cover and what they choose not to cover.
Oh boy, a lot of tongue juts today. He's very upset. I don't know. Does that mean, is he dehydrated or something? I don't know. His hair looks good. I just don't think the new food agrees with him. Sorry. I don't know when he's going to get to the Joe Biden suit thing.
I still have nightmares from this video. It's not just any ordinary street fight. This is, I don't know what it is. Hundreds of guys surrounding an individual.
All right, why are we just showing abstract, like, pick up in the middle fights? This is just ridiculous. And then he's going to go to Democrats saying political language that he's like, by saying fight, you mean fight.
I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
He means female voters, dummy. Does Greg Kelly think that that like Schumer was going to put Kavanaugh in a fucking boat and push him out to sea?
You won't know what hit you.
This should be.
When he means women voters, which, by the way, has been precisely what's happened. Ohio, hi there.
The most famous clip in the world right now.
Why?
Now, it's actually hard to find on the internet. Chuck Schumer, the majority leader of the United States Senate, calling for violence against a Supreme Court justice.
No. He's not calling for violence. He's saying you are going to see what women voters decide in the future. Like, this is, and in this particular one, because of, like, you will reap the whirl and you'll pay the price, meaning that the right wing he represents is going to have to deal with the rise of women voters. Like, this is so obvious.
Of them. And he did it with glee.
The whole cast?
At one point, he looks at the crowd, his eyes, he can't believe wow, they're really eating this up.
Jesus Christ. A feeling Greg Kelly will never know.
Got the crowd in the palm of my hands. He loves it. He's like Mr. Burns. You know Mr. Burns on The Simpsons? It's fast.
Yeah, he's also talking to a giant crowd of women who are being denied their reproductive rights, partly but on the whims of a dude who was accused, validly, I believe, accused of sexual assault in his life. It's a direct one-to-one. It makes total sense. Like, this asshole who thinks he can control women's bodies when they're right in front of him also thinks he should control them in the abstract everywhere.
Fascinating that this guy is not in trouble, and Donald Trump right now is facing how many? It's a joke. It's a badge of honor, just like he says.
No, it's not. And by the way, none of this has anything to do with the violent threats he's said against people multiple times. Even the shit, like, they're trying to make the Jan 6 stuff about it. He said peacefully and patriotically walk down there. Yeah, until you get there. And then he said you're going to have to fight or you're not going to have a country back. Obviously, he just didn't want you to tear up the lawn on your way to kill Nancy Pelosi.
78 felonies. 78 felonies for Donald Trump, and 0 for Chuck Schumer, and 0 for the Biden family.
Yep. Get used to disappointment.
And I keep hearing, and I am getting sick of it, talk about, I know it's a cliche, the boy who cried wolf, the media telling us that he's a threat to democracy, he's a threat to the judge. Be quiet and let him tweet or Truth Social or whatever.
Okay, be quiet and let him. First of all, you can do all that shit and nobody's in the way. He says what he says, and nobody's like, I guess, calling for the censoring of Truth Social again on in his average statements or in his complaints. It's when he's actually doing, like, you fuck with me, I'm coming after you kind of shit. That's him threatening action, either by sending his people or him doing it himself or threatening physical violence, which is not at all what Schumer said. We know this.
We are sacrificing the due administration of justice to Donald Trump's dangerous rhetoric, his reckless speech, his intimidating conduct.
Protective order is necessary to ensure that Trump doesn't publicly disclose evidence.
We are in
he's reading from the state's argument. That was Wolf Blitzer explaining what Jack Smith made as an argument in court. That's not Wolf Blitzer just going, we've got to shut this guy down. But he's edited in such a way because that's how Greg Kelly,
Unique circumstances here. It's probably unprecedented that a high-profile defendant in this case makes such overt threats.
Consider this harassment. Consider this dangerous, that there would have to be, whether it be a gag order or something imposed
on restricting the language of the defendant.
They're trying to...
Oh, again, she's doing the same thing Wolf Blitzer was doing. She was describing the argument. She wasn't making the argument. She may have, described it in more like casual terms, but she's basically making the case that they're gonna have to do a gag order on this guy because he's making threats and he might disclose evidence about the case in a way that would fuck with the jury pool, and then you can go, I can't get a fair trial because people have heard this stuff. Like this is a trick Trump is not above doing, which is you leak bad information about yourself and then you go, how'd that get out?
The past wasn't that long ago.
I know.
Him in jail for the rest of his life, and he can't.
Well, in all fairness, I think they're going to put him in Bedminster for the rest of his life.
Put stuff on Truth Social. This is the threat.
No, you can put all kinds of stuff. You just can't put the home address of an attorney general or their wives or children.
A couple of paragraphs on Truth Social. These are funny. They're interesting. They're insightful, and it's from
insightful. Yeah, break it down. The Obama-appointed judge in the free speech indictment. For me, okay, which is a lie, okay. Crooked Joe Biden's Department of Injustice. I call it that because I thought that they got shared professional ties at the law firm that worked for energy company Burisma, based in Ukraine, of which Hunter Biden and his associates were proud members of the board. Right. Because they weren't committing any crimes. It's weird. Okay, so what you're saying is that a bunch of people who are above board know each other vaguely because of a town where business takes place, and they hate you because you broke the law. That's the breakdown?
A man defending himself. None of those people have been charged with a crime. If this is the way he wants to defend himself, good for him. It's fascinating. They can...
This is grossing me out. I'm just fucking nasty. I don't know what the fuck. All I can imagine is that when Greg Kelly sits on the fucking bus, he's just going, just like not talking, just to himself. Good Lord.
Say whatever they want about him. They can have campaign after campaign after campaign. Actually, they did. The January 6th hearings, part 4.
Among the most...
Part 4, it was one thing.
Shameful of this committee's findings was that President Trump sat in the dining room off the Oval Office watching the violent riot at the Capitol on television. No.
Yeah, it was not for how long he did it, which is the point, for like an hour and a half or something without doing anything, just enjoying it. And by the way, Greg Kelly's like, now they're going after him for watching television? Oh, I guess. Oh, and that's the thing. They're trying to indict him for watching television. You watch television, don't you? I mean, obviously, I'm not on it. It's an internet thing that you watch. I'm probably on your phone, Mom. Hi.
No man who would behave that way at that moment in time can ever serve in any position of authority in our nation again. He is unfit for any office.
Agreed.
And that was in primetime television. Liz Cheney. We had to listen to Liz Cheney. Primetime, January 6th hearing. Remember that? Last summer. It was...
Yeah, it was fascinating. It was riveting.
All her. And then she lost by 50 points.
In a state with less people in it than half of Santa Monica, California.
If she can do that in primetime television, I think Donald Trump can put a couple of things up on Truth Social, don't you?
No, I don't. First of all, did she threaten his life? Did she say, we are going to kick his ass? If he tries to come after this committee, we're coming after him. Grab your torches, everybody. No, he didn't. No, she didn't. They didn't. Nobody on the Jan 6 panel did that. Did they list private addresses, bank accounts, his fucking social security number, whatever the fuck? No, they didn't. That's what the gag order is talking about.
That wasn't the first January 6th hearing. We had the ones in 2021 as well.
It's upsetting.
Oh, this is the whole thing. Like, he doesn't think cops should cry.
It's a pathetic excuse for his behavior for something that he himself helped to create, this monstrosity.
Rank and file cops on national television saying President Trump is pathetic. He's a...
Yeah, I agree. Some people in my audience don't like to regularly agree with cops, but they certainly do in this case.
Created monstrosities.
You know who you are.
That's fine, and it's on national television. There were January.
Right. Did they say, if I ever see that fucker in traffic, I'm going to pull him over and throw the book at him? No.
January 6 hearings in 2021. And before that, there were the impeachment hearings, even though he was no longer president. Remember, they tried to impeach him. So they did. Oh,
yeah, for behavior he committed while president, which is impeachable. And then the idea was that, and by the way, he was still president at that point. He just had lost the election.
And one documentary after the next. All this 4 hours at the Capitol, HBO, and on and on and on. ABC News Special, PBS News Special, CBS News Special, the January 6th report. Let's make it a bestseller, even if it's not a bestseller. Just on and on and on with January 6th stuff, trying to, I think, taint the jury pool. Can we?
No. First of all, the committee was an investigative body over a government employee, which is pretty common, even with like inspector generals within the government doing an initial investigation and making their findings public. That's a fairly normal thing. So why is he fucking special? And their job was to have that, that committee, and then present their findings to the DOJ, and the DOJ could decide what they were going to do with him. And they have. And he's going to jail. Well, his ankle monitor or something.
Possibly say that this tainted the jury pool. All this compared to what? A couple of True Social comments?
No, not comments. And by the way, these aren't the ones he's getting in trouble for. And as a matter of fact, let's see. I never said anything bad or even slightly inappropriate to little Mike Pence or whatever. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Purposely didn't comment on Nancy Pelosi's very weird story about her husband. Yeah, he's intentionally leaving out the "if you come after me, I'm coming after you," whatever. That one. He's intentionally leaving out those. He just find a spattering of like random blather from Trump where he doesn't make one. It's probably harder. These are the only 5 they could find where he doesn't implicitly make a threat right now.
And also what he says things at speeches that they refuse to cover. I do worry,
Well, I mean, once you've covered it, I've covered it, and he's saying the same shit over and over again. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love covering him because he has the best words.
Had the best words.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to be a country no more. I actually think it will not. It will be a country no more. We have to slab it.
Yeah,
If he is somehow incarcerated, who's going to speak for us? Who's really going to do it?
I don't know. How pathetic is your political movement that you only have one leader that can speak on your behalf? Seriously, explain how you're not a cult right now.
Who's really going to pull it off for us? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard because if he can't pull it off, who will?
I had to beat off.
Or beat off. Yeah.
A lot of these guys out there, they're mimics. They're not genuine.
Yeah. Oh, unlike Trump, who's the real deal. He's not just a paper doll carbon copy of his father's shitty attempts to have a racist rental policy in New York.
I worry about that. I do like that.
Yeah, I know.
Congressman McCarthy, the speaker, is finally talking about impeaching the big guy.
Where's the money?
Where's the money? His cutesy little answer when he was finally asked, for once by the press, there are very serious allegations that you took money, your family took money.
It's fucking doocy again, I think.
From all these foreign countries, like, Ukraine. $17 million. This has been.
By the way, anybody mind if I hold on? It's funny that you bring this up, dummy. Let's see, because I just did a thing today. Yeah, there it is. Present. Start there. Take this. Grab this guy. Slide this thing over here. Remember TPP? I showed you this morning, and I'm very proud of this. So TPP was a Trans-Pacific Partnership. It was to push back against Chinese industrial hegemony around the Pacific and throughout Southeast Asia. Basically, crowd out Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Brunei, Singapore, Malaysia, India, ultimately Australia, New Zealand, and a part of it was Canada, Mexico, Peru, and Chile, because it was all the Pacific. And the United States was a part of it. And it was intentionally there to stop China's expansion. And then on the second day in office, Trump gets rid of TPP. He's very proud. He signs an executive order getting rid of it. And China doesn't have to worry about that anymore. And then the same year, while he's president of the United States, $17 million. Why does that number sound so familiar? Now, where the difference is, and there's a very distinct difference, and I want to know if you guys can spot it. Allegedly received and actually did. This isn't even a question. This isn't like this. They have the paperwork. He doesn't even deny this at this point. In 2017, the company reported an unusually large spike in revenue from some $17.5 million, more than the previous 5 years combined. It was accompanied by a $15.1 million withdrawal by Mr. Trump from the company's capital account. He just took $15 million out. That's that. There you go. That's so when you talk about $17 million and allegedly, do yourself a favor and just parallel it. There's nothing wrong with it. Just say, Biden is alleged to have gotten $17 million. Now, that's what everybody involved in all of the business in Europe got collectively, multiple businesses, right? Multiple people, including Devin Archer, including Tony Bobulinski, or whoever the fuck else was in Rosemont Seneca at that point, and money that was invested, not taken as income. Like, they're scooping it all together. But by comparison, Donald Trump, $17.5 million payment, and he withdrew $15 million in cash himself his first year in the White House. He did it. But please go on. Anyways, back to what was that word you were using? Allegedly.
Established by the House Oversight Committee. They've seen it.
No, you haven't. If they've seen it, then you wouldn't have this.
They've gone through the LLCs. They went through the suspicious activity reports at the Treasury Department. This is documented.
No, it's not. I love this too. Biden family and associates. Meanwhile, for the record, it was accompanied by a $15.1 million withdrawal by Mr. Trump from the company's capital account. By him fucking self.
Saying there's no evidence. There's plenty of evidence.
Then show some, asshole. You opened this fucking video playing footage of people brawling on a fucking dock. Post it. Don't make a fucking graphic. I didn't have to. I made a graphic. It's very nice. But it accompanies an article that specifically notes what was found by the Washington Post, or New York Times in this case, in Trump's taxes. Very specific, not alleged, actual.
From China, how much money? At least from $3 million transferred to the Biden family. From Romania, of all places, $1 million sent. Now, it's true. Joe's not getting any of the money.
All right, well then, fuck off.
But everybody else in his family is, including grandchildren, including ex-girlfriends and
essentially anybody that Hunter owed money to.
Ex-wives, and it's insane.
Yes. His ex-wife got some of his money from his business. He got a divorce. Greg, you got to know what a divorce is, buddy.
It's actually everybody's getting money except for Joe.
Gee, it's almost like he has a different plan for his life.
That's a red flag right there.
No, it isn't. No, it fucking isn't. Does anybody got law enforcement in their family that don't own property, don't own any commercial property in the area that they live in, specifically for the reason that they don't want to have an issue if they have to police their own property as a commercial entity outside their work as a law enforcement? Yeah, that's a pain in the ass. They just don't.
There, don't you think? And we have that text message from Hunter where he's moaning about having to share all of his salary, half of it at least, with the big guy, his father.
No. First of all, bag men don't complain about sharing money. It's either his dad's fucking money or it isn't. Secondly, that was when Jill and Joe were holding his money for him because he was snorting it.
Where could the money be? They could have spent it.
Yeah, that's what it was. They spent it. On what?
I mean, Joe is... I mean, look at all that stuff. The watches, the...
Okay, first of all, one is an old house he doesn't have anymore. Secondly, he's had the other two houses for fucking ever. Also, the Corvette isn't new, you know this? And he didn't buy his son. I suppose you could rent him.
The clothes, the clothes.
The clothes. The fuck? It's a tuxedo, asshole. I have 3.
He's very serious about his clothes. You know, you can't necessarily tell right off the bat, but yeah, that's Corneliani. He loves fancy clothes. That's like a $2,000 jacket.
He's the president of the United States, you fucking idiot. Again, we're back to tan suit. That's what this is. With all this, easy, handy girl. Good Lord. We're back to tan suit. That's what it is. That's what it's boiled down to. This whole clip is the reason you know Biden is a crook is because he likes nice clothes. Billions of dollars. Remember, Trump accused Hunter and Joe of getting $1.5 billion out of China. No clothes are that nice, unless they're fucking nanotech or some shit. Broke men don't have suits. Every time I've ever been broke in my life, I've had a suit. Good Lord.